So let me just share my screen here. Hope everybody had a good weekend, and we were really fortunate. Our last 2 weeks with Allie Carter and Denise Whitney's presentation. So thank you guys. You guys did a great job, and we've invited more people to come on as well to do guest presentations. So we're looking forward to that. So today we're going to start a 3-part series on excelling in life through co-creation. And it's really about how we transform our thinking from me thinking to we thinking. And so today what we're going to talk about is like, well, what is co-creation, and kind of put a little bit of definition around it and maybe dispel some myths a little bit. And then how do we change our thinking, okay? So that we can move from, from a me mentality to a we mentality. And the benefit of doing that is that when we're more inclusive and when we look at things from an expanded sense, okay, many hands make light work, and we can accomplish more. And so I'm looking forward to getting into this. And this is a little bit of a prelude into a program that we've had now for 2 or 3 years called Shared Leadership. And shared leadership is basically this process of how do we co-create. So I'm looking forward to getting into this deeper. And we've had this program going on with the home office staff, sales directors, and support specialists, and we're looking forward to kind of bringing this more mainstream into the whole organization. As we've started to kind of do our own training, internally, and then working its way out, more broadly into the organization. So this is kind of a warm up to that. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Gary ZUKAV, but Gary ZUKAV wrote this book called Seat of the Soul. And it's actually one of my favorite books. And Gary is, he's an interesting guy. He was a combat infantry officer in Vietnam. Of course, as you can imagine, had experiences that led him to be more insightful at a soul level. And I got this quote from his book, Seat of the Soul. And if you're looking for a good read, this is it. And this is one of these, like, for instance, like people like Oprah Winfrey, like this is their go-to book. This is like their go-to manual for life, okay? Seat of the Soul. So a quote from Gary ZUKAV is that there's no such thing as being alone in the universe. And so there's no such thing as creating alone. Everything, every impulse, every creative gift of beauty, everything is a co-creation. And if you want to, do a little bit of work on your own for co-creation, this is a really good place to start. So we'll talk about kind of dispelling, like, what's the difference between compromise, collaboration, and co-creation, okay? And I think for good reason, a lot of them, like these three concepts get lumped together, okay? As like compromise is part of like creating things, and I want to kind of spend a little bit of time on this and kind of dispel some of these things and get a broader understanding of the difference between compromise, collaborate, and co-create. So talk about compromise, and I'm going to be pretty tough, okay, about this. A compromise, an agreement between 2 or more parties to settle a dispute, which requires each side to make a concession. Now, we come from, like in our industry, right, or industries, we come from a, one of the older axioms is, a good deal is a deal that no one's happy with, right? Who's heard that expression before, right? But I'm going to say that compromise is probably the least productive thing we can do in life. And that might sound kind of counterintuitive, right? Because we've all been, taught, socialized to compromise. But compromise is a reductive process in that if there's two people in the compromise, we're both agreeing to give up something fundamentally so that we can agree on a lower outcome. And I know it might sound a little counterintuitive, but by virtue of saying, well, we're going to compromise, we're giving away core pieces of what we believe, okay, so that we can have a reductive outcome. Now, when we move to collaboration, okay, that's better, all right? So you got two or more people working together towards a shared goal. So as opposed to compromise, where we're kind of forcing ourselves to give up something we believe in, right? And just to go back to compromise for a second, how often do you see compromised solutions not last? Because when we have to make compromises, okay, at the end of the day, we typically don't feel good about it. Now, collaboration is different because now we've got two people kind of with, I'll just use in the context of two people, right? It could be groups, of course. But you have two people working together towards kind of a shared goal. So if we have this shared belief, okay, then we're going to structure our dialogue and our actions so that we accomplish this shared belief, okay? Understand though, that shared, and there's nothing wrong with this, but that shared belief is fixed, okay? So if the shared belief is we want to accomplish this thing, all right, then we're collaborating only to accomplish this one thing. It's not expansive, okay? It's a fixed point in space, fixed point in space and time that we want to accomplish this thing. Nothing wrong with that because we need collaboration, okay? So it's in between compromise, okay, which I would advocate. Compromise is probably the worst thing we could do, all right? And you've got co-create, which we'll talk about in just a second, and you got collaboration that's kind of in the middle. So then we move to co-creation, and I found this quote from Andy Hagerman, the co-founder of the Design Gym. I don't have a ton of experience with the Design Gym, but I thought this was really good. And so let's just kind of pick this apart for a second. So co-creation is when a group of people, again, it could just be two people, right? It doesn't have to be a wide group. Ideally with diverse perspectives and disciplines, come together to work on developing solutions to define a challenge. The most important point of differentiation is that the outcomes of the work, now this is where co-creation is so different, okay, from collaboration, and certainly a galaxy apart from compromise, where outcomes of the work end up in a place different than any one person's incoming ideas and more unexpected than any one person might have been able to land on their own. More unexpected than any one person might be able to land on their own. And so in of itself, co-creation is about starting, right, with different points of view and maybe even slightly different goals. But how do we create something greater, some outcome greater than what we would have had if we had just collaborated to a certain point in time, and certainly greater than what we would achieve if we were just all willing to agree to compromise, right? And so co-creation, and this is kind of more of my view on it, is, co-creation is a higher outcome process than compromise or collaboration, because a process creates an entirely unique condition. So when we go to co-create, could be with our life partner, it could be at work, okay, it could be in anything, with our kids, our grandchildren, whatever the case may be, whatever circumstance we have with people that we're interacting with, what we want to create is a unique condition. We want to have a unique outcome. We want to have like the best outcome. Okay. And when we compromise, it's a reductive outcome. All right. And rarely do compromises stick because you have to give up too much, right? Too much of yourself. In a collaboration, yep, we're better because we're working together for a certain goal, but it's kind of a fixed point in time. But when we go to co-creation, now we're co-creating a unique condition, a unique outcome, a unique event. It could be entirely different than what we thought of, like when we started. And that's what co-creation is. Co-creation is like this higher output process, okay, where we're going to excel beyond what we thought we could. And that's where all the juicy stuff lives, right? The juicy stuff lives in co-creating that outcome that we just hadn't even thought of. And really, we can do this in all aspects of our lives. And so we'll end today with this process of so how do we reshape our thinking? Okay. So there's always more wisdom with more than one person. Because as an individual, we only know so much, right? But the wisdom is in the room when there's more of us and we're tapping into our group consciousness and our group wisdom and our group experience and knowledge, all right? Power comes from working together, not apart, right? Goes back to many hands make light work. It's very difficult for just one individual to accomplish a lot. Understanding that I'm a continuous learner. If I'm a continuous learner, all right, then I'm open to the wisdom in the room, that I'm open to what Carrie can share with me, okay? Or what Ara has, right? What are his life experiences? What's his point of view? It's pretty amazing when you get a group of people together and you create a safe space, which is what we've been doing on our shared leadership program, where you create a safe space so that people can really say what's on their mind. And that's what co-creation is. It's like, hey, man, there's no limits. Let's create. And so, but to do that, you have to be curious. Which is the next bullet, the fourth bullet down. You have to be a continuous learner, and you have to live in curiosity. If you can't live in curiosity, then you really can't learn. The fifth bullet, all things are connected, nothing is a coincidence. Now, I don't want that to be construed as being esoteric in any way, okay? But I think we all understand this, okay? Every single thing is connected. There's no such thing as a coincidence, all right? And so when we bring energies together to co-create, what we're doing is we're bringing together our connected beings. We're bringing together we're forming connections, okay? That will create an outcome, and that outcome is not a coincidence. And then lastly, we approach life relationally, not through power dynamics. And so that's where we talk about creating a safe space, okay? Where, I spend a lot of time, and just give you a personal example, I spend a lot of time with my grandchildren. My oldest grandson is 11, and he and I do a lot of stuff together. And one of my goals with him is to always create a safe space for him to say whatever he wants, right? To ask whatever question he wants, and to let him experiment, okay? Where, yes, I'm the grandfather, I'm the elder, but we don't approach either one of us actually don't approach our relationship in that power dynamic, okay? And it might be hard with children and grandchildren, but in any type of relationship, if we come at it as being curious and I'm here to learn, It doesn't matter if you're the older or the younger, or if you're in a different position, you know, in a hierarchical or organizational sense. If we all come as learners and we all come with curiosity, we're all equal. And then if we're equal, we're approaching our dialogues and our relationships relationally, okay, and not through power dynamics. So as far as how we reshape our thinking, you know, these are kind of the six thoughts that I wanted to leave you with. And what we'll do next week is we'll pick up how do we pick this up, you know, and how do we use these in a practical sense, right, to co-create things in our lives. So let's see if we have any chats. You know, that Gary ZUKAV book is really good. And you can go on YouTube too. And I do this a lot. Like I'll go onto YouTube if I see an author that I don't have any experience with, and you know, you can, you know, YouTube videos of interviews and things like that. Gary's a good one to there's like 30 or 40, I think, you know, Oprah appearances for him, so you can kind of get a sense of it. But it's a very powerful book, and it will leave you with a kind of a really true sense of how co-creation works. So, all right, well, it's really good to be with everybody. Hope everybody has a great week, and we will see you next Monday, where we'll start to talk about how do we apply the reshaping of our thinking for co-creation. Okay. All right, guys, take care.